folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. Oh, the return tonight, oh yes. When the Templars brought back their secrets of eternal life from the Orient. When the villagers learned of their human sacrifices to the devil, they burned out their eyes so they could never find their way back. Oh, but they come back tonight. Oh, they can't see. Oh, but they hear everything. Tonight the Templars will get their revenge. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Gershon. This week we are doing another movie review. This is Return of the Evil Dead, otherwise known as Return of the Blind Dead. Yes, not to be confused with the Sam Raimi series. But it's had many different names. But it is the sequel to The Tombs of the Blind Dead from 1972. The film was written and directed by Armando de Osorio, who, of course, directed the original film, Tombs of the Blind Dead. The film stars Tony Kendall, Fernando Sancho, Esperanza Roy, and Lone Fleming, who returns from the original film. Although here she plays a different role, kind of a smaller role, different character though. Return of the Evil Dead, I think is just a fantastic sequel. It almost reminds me of like Halloween 2 in a way, where it's like, it maintains that great atmosphere that the original had, that great gothic tone, but it's like more blood, more nudity, more of the Templars, more of everything. So yeah, it's a little more extreme, but it still maintains that great atmosphere, and it's very creepy, you know. I just love it. I love the whole series, actually. So you also had Night of the Seagulls and the Galleon. There's 4 films in the series. So what happens with this one, Return of the Evil Dead, is we actually get to see what happens to the Knights Templar in this one. How they lost their eyes, you know. So what happens in the beginning, we see the Knights Templar doing their thing, getting ready to make a blood sacrifice to the devil, to bring forth eternal life, you know, by drinking the blood of a virgin. So that's what they do, you know, they capture this woman, they put her on the crucifixion, they sacrifice her. So the villagers find out what they're doing, and they take them captive, and they burn out their eyes so they could never find their way back for revenge. The funny thing is they completely burn their entire bodies. So yes, they burn them at the stake, so I don't know really what difference it makes that you're burning their eyes out. You're burning their entire body anyway, but I digress. But anyway, it's really cool. You get to see what happens to them, and then, you know, one of the members of the Knights Templar vows, you know, we're immortal, we're immortal. You hear me? So he vows revenge against the villagers. So flash forward 500 years, and the local village is now getting prepared to do a festival, a celebration of 500 years, the anniversary of the villages, you know, being triumphant over the Knights Templar. So they have a big festival and celebrate it. They even put like, scarecrows of the Knights Templar, you know, like they were burning them at the stake and stuff, and they kind of burn them as kind of a symbol. Not really a great idea in retrospect. So then we meet this guy, Mordo, who's like the town, like, freak, you know, he's like, looks like Quasimodo or something, and little kids, you know, beat him up, throw stones at him because he's so, like, ugly, but, he's quite fascinated by the story of the Knights Templar. He kind of, like, worships them almost. But, he does try to warn some of the other townsfolk that the Templars are coming back. It's 500 years later. Tonight they will return and take their revenge, And of course, nobody in town listens to him. He's just like the village idiot or whatever, They don't believe any this nonsense. They're just going to have fun. And in their big festival, they hire this guy, Jack Marlowe, to do the fireworks. Apparently he's a big fireworks technician. And yeah, so the mayor is the one throwing the big party. The mayor, Duncan, along with his assistant, what's his name, DeCosta. Yeah. And the mayor's wife is Vivian. And it turns out that Jack and Vivian have a romantic history, So they you find out that Vivian basically got him hired just so they can rekindle those sparks, so they can rekindle their romance and run away together or whatever, And the mayor basically doesn't really have a clue. And also this guy DeCosta is in love with this Vivian girl too. He wants to jump her bones. At one point he actually tries to rape her. Yeah, and him and Jack fucking go at it. So yeah, so what happens basically is, of course, this guy Murdo, how he's so obsessed with the knights, he decides to take matters into his own hands and murder a woman and sacrifice her in the name of the Templar Knights. And that brings about the knights returning from their tomb and rising from their graves and seeking revenge. They get on their horses and they grab their swords and they take out a whole damn town, and they murder just about everybody, The few remaining survivors kind of gather together and they kind of run off to sanctuary in this big Gothic church. So yes, it brings for such great atmosphere. Beautiful camera work, fog everywhere. You got these rotting corpses, the Templar Knights. They just look so awesome and creepy. They've got the long, skeleton arms. I just love it. They look so creepy. They move so slowly. But hey, they get around. They get on their horses and they take care of business. They're still quite good with the sword. So yeah, these old medieval knights from centuries ago are back. Their rotting corpses are back to take everyone out. So yeah, while everyone takes refuge in the church, certain idiots decide to go off on their own while all the Templars are surrounding the church, ready to murder everyone, as soon as they leave the building. So a few people try to make their little escapes and they get killed, obviously, The fools. And then Murdo is in there with them, and apparently he has a plan of escape, and he takes this young woman with him, who helped him earlier on in the film when these kids were kind of messing with him and throwing stones at him. So he decides to bring her along. So he has a whole underground layer set up underneath the church. So they try to escape underground. He's got this whole thing set up, a whole big passageway. So when it's almost like a big cave underneath, and once they get up from the cave and he kind of peeks his head up out the hole, the Templar Knights are waiting right for him and chop his head right off. And they grab the girl's head and pull her up, and you just see the blood splattering down. It's awesome. Yeah, this movie is just fantastic. I think it's a great sequel. Like I said, I love this whole series, but particularly this film, I think, is a great follow-up to the original. Even though it doesn't necessarily follow the events of the original film, it's like you would think the villagers might know a little something, they might take some kind of notice where this already has happened before. They might take a little bit of precautions to prevent the Templars' return. So yeah, this film kind of completely ignores what happened in the first one. So it's kind of just almost like a one-shot story featuring the Templar Knights, really. But yeah, it has all the same feel as the original, that same atmosphere, but like I said, it's a little bit more extreme, more gore, more nudity. There's some great kills in here. Yeah, and it's just so much fun. A lot more than knights, some great chase scenes, some great bloody battles with the knights and their swords, and I love that. I love the score too. It's very, very creepy, especially when you hear the knights coming around and like it's like this weird creepy sound that happens every time the Templars come around. You better get the hell out of there. Fantastic sequel, and definitely check out this whole franchise, especially the Tombs of the Blind Dead and the sequel, Return of the Evil Dead. And yes, I love this title, I just love to confuse people. Return of Evil Dead, what? How can it be called Evil Dead? I've never seen this one. Yeah, definitely give Return of the Evil Dead 2 devil horns up, and thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Urshan, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Good evening, folks, and we got some brand new merchandise for you over at www.thehorrorcona.com, and that's CONA.com. Representing the Horror Corner. Great new design. We got the Morbid Hour live stream there, you got the Horror Hangout live stream there, and you got my nemesis, the Dark Fate. So grab your t-shirt over at www.thehorrorcona.com. And we also got this beautiful new mug. Look at that. Very, very cool. Thought that came out really nice. So grab your merchandise today over at www.thehorrorcona.com. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Urshan gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have. Perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.